present. Come. What the? Come.
What? What do I say to you, old flag? You are so great in every fold, so linked to mighty, mighty deeds of old. So calm, so firm, so still, so true. My heart swells at the very, very sight of you. And there you stand with colors bright, and I think 'tis only right that since you neither brag nor boast, we bring to you this heartfelt toast.
The Toast to the Flag by John Daly, 1917. Here's to the red of it. There's not a thread of it, no nor a shred of it in all the spread of it from foot to head. But heroes bled for it, faced steel and lead for it, precious blood shed for it, bathing for it. Here's to the white of it, thrilled by the sight of it, who knows the right of it, but feels the might of it through night and day. Womanhood's care for it, made manhood dare for it, purity's prayer for it. Here's to the blue of it, beauteous view of it, heavenly hue of it, star-spangled dew of it, constant and true. Diadems gleam for it, state stands supreme for it, liberty's beam for it, brightens the blue.
Here's to the whole of it, stars, stripes, and pole of it, body and soul of it, and oh, the roll of it, with the sun shining through. Hearts in accord for it, swear by the sword for it, thanking the Lord for it. For it's your flag, it's my flag, it's our flag, the red, white, and blue. What the?
Thank you, National Sojourners. This time I'll call on Mickey Hamby to give us our invocation.
Will you bow your heads with me? Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this glorious morning, Lord, and that we can come together and remember our forefathers and all the sacrifices that they made to pave the way for us to enjoy the freedom we have today. Bless our time together and the opportunities we have to never ever forget all that has been done for our great country. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. And now, Captain Hobson, if you would come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Face the flag, put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at this time, we'll call on Belle to come and sing America the Beautiful. I'll have a seat.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for pearl
majesty above thy fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, Belle. On this Independence Day, it is fitting that we should pause and reflect on that first Independence Day, July 2nd, 1776. Yes, I said July 2nd. You see, the vote for independence was actually a vote on the resolution by Richard Henry Lee of Virginia. It had been introduced June 7th, 1776 and read, resolved that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, and that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. This resolution was laid over until July 1st, 1776, as it was clear that a number of the states weren't ready to go that far, including New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and South Carolina. It is actually kind of humorous that Delaware was on the fence in Congress, because just a week later, on June 15, 1776, the state government in Newcastle declared itself independent not only of Great Britain, but also of Pennsylvania. It had functioned since 1704 with a separate General Assembly, but shared the same governor as Pennsylvania. Congress took up Lee's resolution on July 1st as promised, and a unanimous vote was achieved thanks to three factors. First, Caesar Rodney of Delaware rode throughout the night on July 1st and 2nd, 1776, through a terrible storm to break Delaware's deadlocked vote. Second, two Pennsylvania delegates left the floor to allow pro-independence delegates to put Pennsylvania in the yes column, and folks from New York completely left the room as they refused to vote yes without instructions from home. John Adams wrote his wife that July 2nd, 1776 would be, in the coming years, celebrated as a day of independence with fireworks and celebrations. But it wasn't to be. While Congress had figured out what to do with Lee's resolution, it had appointed a committee of 5 to draft a declaration explaining the action they intended to take. The committee asked Thomas Jefferson to write it, and when they were done, they submitted their draft to Congress on June 28th. After amendments, it was this document that was actually voted on and approved on July 4th, 1776. Because the declaration was dated July 4th, that day became the day we celebrate, much to the chagrin of my brother and all others who were born on July 2nd. Recently, a friend of mine wrote this about that day of July 2nd. 242 years ago, the Continental Congress passed Richard Henry Lee's motion that these colonies are and ought of right to be free and independent states. With the exception of Sam Adams, these folks were not rabble-rousers. They were largely wealthy lawyers, merchants, and plantation owners. John Witherspoon of New Jersey was a minister. Matthew Thornton of New Hampshire and Benjamin Rush were doctors. Lyman Hall of Georgia was both. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania was a scientist, a printer, and the most famous American in the world at the time. There were slaveholders and anti-slave activists. Several were descendants of the earliest colonists to come to America. Others were themselves immigrants, some from England, like Button Gwinnett, or from Scotland or Wales and Ireland. Caesar Rodney of Delaware was part Italian. By and large, they were the cream of society of their respective colonies. Those with the most to lose should America's bid for independence fail, and some, for the merchants, with a lot to lose should it succeed. And then there was the possibility of being executed for treason should they be captured. A number of them didn't like one another personally, and a great many of them did not trust each other. Some thought that independence was long past due, Others were skeptical. Many, generally conservative in nature, simply felt that all other options had been exhausted and reluctantly believed that the time had finally come. Rodney rode throughout the night to break the tie in the Delaware delegation. Among the 7 Pennsylvania delegates, 3 favored independence while 4 were skeptical. But 2 of those skeptics, Robert Morris and John Dickinson, left the floor prior to the vote in order that a majority of Pennsylvania's voting delegates would favor independence. Morris would eventually sign the declaration and lose much of his fortune financing the war effort. Dickinson would not sign, but would instead leave Congress and enlist in the Army. He would later serve as governor of both Delaware and Pennsylvania, as well as Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. This is the kind of effort that wrought the birth of this nation. We would do well to learn a little bit from these patriots about putting country first. We have to work together to solve our problems. Neither party has a corner on the best solutions or the worst ones either, for that matter. 29 years ago, when I raised my hand in the Marine recruiting office over in South Augusta, I swore an oath to serve and protect this nation and our Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Nobody at that time asked me if I was a Democrat or Republican, just if I would serve the United States of America as an American. On October 28, 1776, at the Battle of White Plains, New York, my 6th great-grandfather, Thomas Johnson, was killed in action. But as he lay dying on that field, far from home, he knew what he was fighting for. For Washington had ordered the Declaration to be read to the troops. He knew that he would die an American. Today, he lies in an unmarked grave on that field where his lifeblood seeped into the ground to water the tree of liberty. Since that time, many additional men and women have made that same sacrifice for us, that this nation might continue to enjoy the liberty, the freedom that was so forcefully spelled out by Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. It is our great debt to all of those that we never forget what was done in Philadelphia in July of 1776. Others may forget, but we must remind them. Paul, Gwinnett, Walton, these are names every Georgian should know. The question before us today is, are you willing to stand in the gap and pass the importance of this day to your children and your children's children? The cornerstone of this monument was laid July 4th, 1848. History tells us that there were nearly 5,000 people gathered here. 170 years later, where is everyone? The task is large. Let us be about the work left for us by our forefathers. May God bless Augusta, and may God bless the United States of America. At this time, I would invite you to rise, and I would invite Lucy to come forward and lead us in the Star Spangled Banner.
What
be seated. And that declaration that Jefferson wrote begins like this. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of these 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as it seems likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind is more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long trail of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces them to design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide a new guard for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such now is the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the King of Great Britain is of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having direct object to the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. And I won't read all of the alleged things that Jefferson wrote that the king had done. Some have said it seems at some point that Jefferson was writing a college essay and he was trying to get the number of words that was required. I don't know what he was thinking, but he went into great detail, so go and read those. But he ends with this. We therefore, as representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these United Colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these United Colonies are of right and ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the Crown of Great Britain, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I'm now calling Lucy to come back up and give us God Bless America.
To
stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairie, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
At this time, we're going to read the names of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. I would ask all children who are present, if they wish, to come forward. We have a bell we're going to ring as we call each name, and the kids can ring the bell.
Still a child.
Want to come and form a line right over here?
So right now they're going to read the name of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and after each name the kids can ring the bell to honor them.
And just keep cycling through till we get through all the names. From North Carolina, William Hooper. Joseph Hughes. John Penn. From South Carolina, Edward Rutledge. Thomas Hayward Jr. Thomas Lynch Jr. Arthur Middleton. From Massachusetts, John Hancock. From Maryland, Samuel Chase. William Taka. Thomas Stone. Charles Carroll of Carrollton. From Virginia, George Wyeth. Richard Henry Lee.
So what they're doing right now is they're reading the names
Thomas
of the signers
Jefferson.
of the Declaration of Independence, and they're ringing a
Benjamin
bell to
Harrison.
honor each name.
Thomas Nelson Jr. Francis Lightfoot Lee. Carter Braxton. From Pennsylvania, Robert Morris. Benjamin Russ. Benjamin Franklin. John Morton. George Clymer. James Smith. George Taylor. James Wilson. George Ross. From New York, William Flood. Philip Livingston. Francis Lewis. Lewis Morris. From New Jersey, Richard Stockton. John Witherspoon. Francis Hopkinson. John Hart. Abraham Clark. From New Hampshire, Josiah Bartlett. William Whipple. From Massachusetts, Samuel Adams. John Adams. Robert Treat Payne. Elbridge Jerry. From Rhode Island, Stephen Hopkins. William Ellerly. From Connecticut, Roger Sherman. Samuel Huntington. William Williams. Oliver Wolcott. And from New Hampshire, Matthew Thornton. From Delaware, Caesar Rodney. George Reed. Thomas McCain. And from Georgia, Button Gwinnett. Lyman Hall. George Walton. All right, thank you. we always ask, I know there's several folks here that are related to one or the other of the signers, but if you're here and you're related to George Walton, if you want to stand in one way or another.
Well, the people related to George Walton are standing right now.
George Walton. All the bishops. Lyman Hall. Thank you. Thanks for being here. And Button Gwinnett. Button kind of got short shrift. You know, he died in the duel pretty quick after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. At this time, we'll have Belle come and sing "What a Wonderful World."
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see the blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, bright blessed day and the dark sick night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. As I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
At this time, we will move to the floral presentations. As I call the name of the group, if the representative would come forward, and we have some carnations over here, you just take the carnation and place it in the wreath. If you have your wreath here and you wish to go over and present to that, you can as well. Thank you, Matt. First would be the College Hill Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, and Jane George is here.
So they're doing a coronation right now. So my name is Joseph Papp. I'm a reporter with the Augusta Chronicle. Out here with the
From the Augusta chapter,
signer
Susan Reese Burgess,
monument
Regent.
ceremony to honor the signers of the Declaration of Independence. I've been recording the whole ceremony right now, and right now
Colonel William
they're
Feud,
doing
chapter, Sons of the American
coronation. Each
Revolution.
chapter is coming
David
up.
Titus.
And yeah, the three Georgia signers are Bud Gwinnett, George Walton,
The George Walton
Bud
chapter,
Gwinnett.
Daughters of the American Colonists, Pat Gracie.
Lyman Hall. So,
From the Reverend Pierre Robert chapter, Daughters of the Colonial Dames, Daphne Hodgson, President. The Meadow Garden Society, Children of the American Revolution, Charlotte Lawson, President. Military Order of the World Wars, Mike Culberson, past commander. Knights of Columbus Assembly, 3493, David Titus. The General Oglethorpe Camp Heroes of 76, Clarence H. Cohen, Chapter 162 of the National Sojourners, Inc. Oh, he's not here, but we have a sitting representative. Any elected officials present, former elected officials? Jerry Brigham here. And I would ask the members of the Masonic Order that are present if you would come up and take a coronation, place it in any of the brothers from different lodges, and I invite you to give your lodge name and number. George Walton was a member of the Masonic fraternity.
Gary Leisure, past Grand Master, member of Webb Lodge 166.
Come on, guys, line up. You don't have to vote.
Jim McKirkland, Partners Lodge 710. Jack Goldberg, Webb Lodge 166.
Jim White, Clarence H. Foreign Lodge number 749.
Steve Purvis, Bannack Lodge 3777, Montana.
Dave Pearson, Martinez Lodge number 710.
Dana Kent, Martinez Lodge 710.
Fred Lineback, George Walton Lodge.
So right now they're doing the coronation of, to honor the signers of the Declaration of Independence. I'm out here at the Signers Monument in Augusta, Georgia, in downtown Augusta. Later on, the Daughters of the American Revolution have opened metal cards at the home of George Washington. So you can go for free tours in there if you would like to, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can stop by and take a free tour of the home of George Washington, one of the Georgia signers of the Declaration of Independence.
I will place a coronation on behalf of Granite Corinthian Lodge, number 34, Wilmington, Delaware. Somebody convinced me to go back in as junior warden after being past master in 2006. I wasn't keeping track, but past Grand Master, I don't know if you guys have a travel and gavel down here, but up where I'm from, it looks like Martinez Lodge would probably take it. All right, we have with us
now, and hope you enjoyed this broadcast. So, this is Joseph Pep with the Augusta Chronicle.